On today's episode of You Asked, is it worth upgrading to Sony's Bravia Theater Quad if you already have the HT-A9? How much have OLED TVs improved in the last 8 years? Is it maybe time for an upgrade? How TV remotes control your other devices these days, and what can you do to fix annoying audio sync issues in your system? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and this is You Asked, the show where I answer questions you asked in hopes that I can help you and others with similar tech questions. If you've got a question for me, please email it to youasked@digitaltrends.com. We'll see if your question gets picked to be answered on the show. Salama writes, is the Bravia Theater Quad worth upgrading from the HT-A9? So for background, Salama has been wrestling with audio dropouts, which they've managed to abate by changing the wireless setting on the HT-A9 to prefer signal stability over higher resolution sound quality. I mention that background because I think it's only worth upgrading from the HT-A9 to the new Theater Quad for two reasons. One is you like the look of the flat speakers way more and would appreciate the simpler placement and lower profile look, wall mounted or otherwise. Two is you're having audio dropout issues with the HT-A9. Now, I can't stress test the Theater Quad well enough to say with absolute certainty that it's going to be rock solid in every single home or retail location. But Sony's changes and improvements to the wireless audio signal transmission are pretty significant. And I feel pretty confident saying you would probably get out from under those wireless audio dropouts with that upgrade. But a far less expensive way to deal with audio dropouts would be to identify the source of the wireless interference and see if you can deal with that. Let's say your Wi-Fi router is in close proximity to your system and you could move it without negatively impacting anything else. Try that and see if it doesn't stop the dropouts. If you can move the little processor box so that it has a clear line of sight to the speakers, try that. Of course, it's possible that the source of the interference is not within your control. If that's the case, the new system is probably going to be your best bet. It's just an expensive solution. Though, it's entirely possible you could sell your HT-A9 to offset the cost. Oh, and by the way, using the acoustic center sync option is probably not going to help anything. You aren't really relieving the HT-A9 system of anything by going that route. Jimmy writes in from Belgium saying that after 9 years and 30,000 plus hours of intensive use, their LG EF9500 OLED TV is beginning to show signs of some burn-in. They're considering the LG C4 and LG G4, and they're wondering if they are missing out on much if they don't also get a new 4K Blu-ray player that supports Dolby Vision. Well, this one's easy. Jimmy and anyone else upgrading from an older OLED TV, you're gonna be in for a pretty significant upgrade with either the LG C4 or the G4. Granted, your current OLED is still an OLED, so you're used to the contrast that OLED can provide. But the increased contrast available from a modern, brighter OLED TV, and that's both white brightness and color brightness, is quite noticeable and a real treat. Also, the EF9500 model that you have was one of the first TVs to offer HDR, and HDR processing alone has come a long way since then. You'll notice much better HDR performance, but really you're gonna get better image quality across the board because LG's image processing has improved by leaps and bounds just in the last couple of years, let alone 9 years. As for Dolby Vision, there are some cases in which the Dolby Vision version of the HDR content that you want to watch can offer some advantages. However, there are also some cases in which the Dolby Vision version is less preferred to the HDR10 or HDR10 Plus version. It really depends on the title. Dolby Vision has the potential to look much better, but at the end of the day, it's a tool, and how good the picture looks in Dolby Vision is going to be up to the artist that wields that tool. I think you'll be so pleased with the improvement in picture quality just from the TV upgrade that you won't feel like you're missing anything without Dolby Vision on disc. However, if it's a matter of budget and you really want a more modern disc player that supports Dolby Vision, I'd say get the C4 and a new disc player versus spending all of your allotted funds on just the G4 more expensive TV. Hope that helps. Chris Renteria writes, I have a Samsung S95B that you recommended 15 months ago, and I have loved the picture quality. But what I don't love is I have never been able to pair my Spectrum DVR cable box to work with one remote. Can you help, or should I just give up trying to make it work and go with YouTube TV that can do the same as a DVR cable box? Right, so I think a lot of folks run into this issue, and it can be especially confusing for those of us who grew up programming our remotes using codes and such. The remote controls that come with many modern TVs, certainly all of the ones that I test these days, only use infrared for very basic functions like powering the TV on and off. Most of the control signals get from the remote to the TV via Bluetooth. Most modern remotes that come with TVs don't have programmable buttons and can't control other devices using infrared or IR anymore. More often than not, the way your TV remote is going to control your other devices these days is over the HDMI cable using a protocol called HDMI CEC, where CEC stands for Consumer Electronics Control. Now, HDMI CEC is far from perfect. In fact, it can be quite buggy, but it's what we've got right now. Now, Chris and anyone else who may have this issue, the way to get your TV remote to control your cable box or Blu-ray player, if it doesn't already, is to make sure that HDMI CEC is turned on in the cable box, Blu-ray player, or streaming set-top box. It's not always labeled HDMI CEC. Sometimes it can be labeled as HDMI control or something like that, but that's what you're going in there to look for. Sometimes manufacturers use different kinds of terms. Other times it's right there on the screen, HDMI CEC, either on or off. So the trick is to find that setting, whatever it's called, and turn it on. Of course, it may also be possible that your box is old enough that it doesn't support that kind of feature, in which case the solution is to get an updated box from your cable or satellite provider. Rarely is your cable or satellite provider going to be proactive about getting you the latest and greatest equipment, but you're paying to rent that stuff, so you should ask them if there is a new and improved box that you can have. I'll also point out that many modern TVs have, as part of their initial setup wizard, the option to add devices. And again, you need HDMI CEC turned on in your connected devices for this to work. But that often helps the TV recognize what boxes are connected. It'll label the input as such, so HDMI 2, for example, might become Blu-ray or Xbox or cable. And then the remote should control many of the control functions of that connected device without you needing to do a bunch of other work. Nick Hannanen writes, I recently set up my Samsung 83-inch S90C, nice flex, and I'm loving the experience, all except for one caveat. For whatever reason, when running 5.1 audio through Toslink to my older style receiver, I cannot get the audio timing synced up. It's driving me crazy seeing dialogue out of sync. I found the delay option in the TV, but still can't get it dialed in. Should I seek a pro audio calibrator, or is there something else I can do to fix this? So guys, I'll tell you right now that solving audio sync issues is a troubleshooting task that depends greatly on what gear you're using and how it's all connected. So I'm gonna have to make a full video on this as soon as I can. With that said, I feel your pain. I had to deal with this twice in the last month when helping my brother and my buddy get some new components working together in their systems. What I can tell you is that often the audio processing that takes place in a soundbar or a receiver can cause delay that you can't adjust for in the TV. And the delay setting in the audio device is usually meant to delay the audio so it matches up with the video signal that it's sending off to the TV by that same audio device. So it's not uncommon to adjust these sync/delay options and just make things worse instead of better. What I can tell you is that you may need to go digging deep into your TV audio settings if you're sending audio from the TV down to a receiver or soundbar via HDMI ARC or optical. Often, telling the TV to convert the audio to PCM, which means an onboard audio decoder is used by the TV, that'll help overcome the delay. This tends to work very well when you want to send just a stereo signal down to a stereo soundbar, but it can also work when you send a 5.1 signal and the TV can do the decoding. Sometimes setting the TV's audio to pass through rather than setting it to Dolby Digital or DTS specifically will help this out, especially if you're using eARC. Now, frankly, I don't expect that advice to help everyone because there are too many permutations of settings that can and cannot work, which is why I need to do a full video on this. But I think the bigger message is here, you can take care of this yourself. You don't have to hire a pro audio calibrator for something like this. Their expertise is best used when optimizing the audio of an advanced audio system. Hiring someone like that to do work like this, fixing lip sync issues, is like hiring a structural engineer to replace one of the floorboards on your deck. So all that to say, please hang tight and I'll make a video that covers audio sync issues from as many different angles as I possibly can. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope this video was helpful and maybe a little entertaining. Just a reminder that next week's episode will be our 1-year anniversary of doing this show, and we've got a giveaway you do not want to miss. So set a timer, ring that notification bell, just make sure you're back here with us next week. I'm super excited for that episode, and I think you're gonna love it too. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, here's 2 other videos I think you might like. We've done every thumbnail there possibly is. I'm just gonna sit here and smile.